Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions on a sunny afternoon. Well, it'll be the afternoon in the UK, BST, 4 p.m. Welcome back, Sharon, Evan, and also Kian, Golzari. We are going to take care of the aftermath of what we're taking care of. Last week, Canton Fair wasn't very pretty, was it? Well, it was pretty in some places, but like usability was pretty poor. But so today's going to be more of an update on that. Kian is just refreshing his camera because we've got some issues there. But what have you been up to this week while we're waiting for him to rejoin, Sharon?
I've been doing heaps of things. I was featured on some podcasts this week, and I was doing some speaking gigs this week, and I was talking a lot about product research. And yeah, that's all sorts of things that come to my mind right now. And I'm a full-time mummy right now too, because my son's at home. So it's just like a whole party going on in my house.
So what events have you been, obviously they're online summits, what ones have you been on?
I am on the Saucy one I was obviously on Branded by Women with your beautiful, what do you call it, summit. Yeah. And I'm on the Saucy Summit this month, and then I just was with going to be on the 7-Figure Summit with Gary, who I think is your friend.
Yeah, Gary Wong.
Yeah. And I was just on the Wizards of Amazon. Mm-hmm. I broke their Zoom, which was pretty cool.
How did you break their Zoom?
Apparently I was the person with the most people plugged in. There were so many people that people couldn't get in because I was presenting my how to find products to sell on Amazon presentation.
Yeah. What? And
hey, Kian, you're back.
You broke
I broke the Zoom, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
You're still a bit blurry, but the most important thing is that we can hear your beautiful voice, Kian. That's the most important thing, right, Danny?
Yes, it is. There's one other thing I just want to quickly do, just for benefit of people checking out the show. Obviously, because we're recording most days, or it's down to 5 from 7 days a week. The problem with having is updating the website all the time. So we just redeveloped Seller Sessions website. So now everything is automated in terms of we haven't got to worry about show notes. So for playback, I'll quickly show you the new site, and then people that instead of trying to scroll down my page or go into various places where it's posted on Facebook, etc., or on YouTube, they've got one central location.
That sounds cool.
Don't know if you can you see my screen?
Yep.
Let me bring this down. This is pretty funky. Can you see me bouncing up and down? Look at that. Look, I look like I'm on the magic carpet.
You do. You look like you're on the moon.
So the idea is obviously, look, you can go here, basically subscribe to any of the different places: iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Then you can see here, this is where the player is. This is all automated. We're up to, as of today, this will be episode of the podcast 494. So next week we'll do a special for 500 episodes. And then down here, obviously for Seller Sessions Live, there may be a couple of tickets available soon. Seller Poll, I'm redeveloping the platform for that. So you'll know more about Seller Poll for August. That'll be year 2. Last year's winners are on there. Branded by Women, obviously, we'll do that again next year. And then obviously the details of all the agency and the case studies. But yeah, just go to sellersessions.com. It's an easier place to go back historically and find everything that you need on the website. So that's my plug over. Let's talk Canton Fair. Who's going first?
Kian's going first.
Sharon, do you want to explain?
No, Kian, it's okay. You can go first. I'll give you the spotlight this time, Kian.
Thanks very much. So as we sort of covered last week, the Canton Fair website did not live up to the expectations of what we were hoping, mainly because it hosts the best suppliers that we know in China, but the platform did not give us much of a chance to connect with them in the best way, mainly because of like the whole logon issue was very complicated. They required quite a lot of personal information, and the website wasn't the easiest or the best to navigate. Now, when we had the podcast last week, we're in day 2 of 10 of the Canton Fair, and we were hoping that they would improve the website, they would notice these issues in the beginning, and they would make steady improvements throughout the week. But unfortunately, it's still the same. There's still issues. It's still hard to log in. It's mostly in Chinese. But what we did cover in last week's podcast was a screen share. So definitely, if you've not checked that one out, definitely go back and check last week's podcast of how you can best navigate the website. And in that, we covered, how to find the design hall, how to spot the opportunities, to make use of the live streams to figure out what are the latest products in your category, instead of just searching by product, because it didn't make that very easy. So. Yeah. I would like to know, anyone listening or anyone watching, if anyone's had any wins, anyone's had any successes, because there have been opportunities, but it's just very, very hard to find, and you have to have a lot of patience to do that. I mean, for me personally, the experience has been worlds apart from what you would get in the real fair. I had an opportunity to really, bridge that gap, but it didn't. But what will be interesting is to see how they react from this, because as you said, that this Canton Fair, is a lot of China's export, to the rest of the world for the next 6 months. A lot of big buyers from around the world come to this fair to find the best suppliers and the best products. But it kind of took that opportunity away from us now. So how's that going to impact the future of export out of China? We're not so sure. And how that affects the next Canton Fair as well, I'm also not sure, because it would be great to see if the next Canton Fair is going to be an online one or a real one. And I was thinking that we're going to go back towards a real one in October. However, there was news of another breakout in China, which kind of puts everything back up in the air. So that was kind of my take on it. Unless you guys, unless the audience had any specific questions about their experience.
There's one here. Alan Gordon's here. Says, is there a way to export your favourites? I could not see or find the option on the Canton Fair website. I.e., find your favourite suppliers and then just have an export button, like a .csv or stuff.
I wish there was a favorite button that you can sort of add those suppliers, but if you can't log in, then you can't add them to your favorites. And what I would do is, if you can engage in instant messaging, is to quickly just ask them immediately for their WeChat ID and also their email address, and take your communication off of the Canton Fair website as soon as possible. Because the other thing is that, once the Canton Fair website finishes, I think as of tomorrow, then, or the day after tomorrow, then we don't know what's going to happen to that website, and if you can log in again, and if all that information will retain on that website. So if you have been having any conversations with suppliers, definitely take that information and take their WeChat and email and get those conversations, because any item you're talking about, whether it's the model number, whether it's the price, whether it's the quantity, you have to have that information in writing. WeChat isn't good enough. WeChat's just good for informal conversations and sending pictures and stuff like that. All these quotations you've been receiving have to be officially in an email. So definitely get everything backed up by email as soon as you can.
Yeah, that makes sense. Qasim says, hello guys, Owen is here, say hi. And Alan said it was a good idea based on what you said. So we know that, we've not been super polite about this. So what do you see in your eyes? Like, we talked about the good, well, we talked about the bad and the ugly, but what was the bright points from it? What would you, as a takeaway, which you thought was good, other than the showroom, which I thought that was pretty good, but it's a gimmick. At the end of the day, you'll go in there and there's tens of thousands of suppliers on there. It's finding them. The searchability, the UI and everything wasn't a pleasant experience to get the results.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is, it's kind of that website that you have to be on it as much as possible to gain the biggest advantage, because the live streams was probably the best part of the Canton Fair, where you could literally just type in your category and see how many people were streaming. At one point, there was 6,500 companies streaming. At one point, it was 3,500. So just depending on what time of the day you go on, there's different factories streaming. Now, if you log on at a different time, then you might not get to see the factory who was streaming for the products that you actually wanted. So it's kind of like, if you have the patience, just sit online and just see what products that they have to offer. Because when they stream, they're talking about the latest products, the latest materials, the markets that are supplying the latest testing that they have, any awards that they've won. So that's a huge advantage to see that, because the Chinese tend to develop their products, or these suppliers develop their products in line with the Canton Fair, because that's when they're front facing with their buyers. So anything new they would be presenting during these live streams. And if you miss the live streams, you might not get to see those products again if you don't go to the factory and you don't list on Alibaba. So the live streams is a great opportunity to find new stuff. And in this saturated Amazon business model, new products is what it's all about, So I would definitely just tune into the live streams as much as you can. That's probably the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, No, that makes sense. Sybe says, good afternoon all. The Canton site is utter shite. The suppliers have been terrible at responding, so I gave up after a couple of days trying. So that isn't that's from one person, right? And so I tuned in to show all the time. We haven't got a huge amount of people saying the same thing, but just judging by everyone's opinions and stuff, I know it's a small sample set. It hasn't set the world alight. So if we're looking at this going ahead in terms of October, let's talk about is there any plus points on that site before we move on to the real Canton Fair and have done with it? Is there any plus points from that website, would you say? Other than the barrier to entry is so high that if you're willing to sit there, you'll find gold because everyone else gave up, which isn't really a plus point, but it is a plus point. Yeah. It's a backhanded slap, isn't it, really?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I think the main plus point is the live section and the award section. But after that, there's not many. And I was actually more thinking, like, how is this going to impact our sourcing from China? Because it's not easy to now go to China to then go to the fact, because I'm desperate to go back. I can't get back out there. I don't know what the whole quarantine situation is like. And then with the fair being a bit of a mess, it's like, well, how are we supposed to develop products for next year? Like what options do we have? So I think that, like, if they really don't improve the online experience after seeing the numbers that they get from this one, that's crazy. Like they don't really have another option apart from this. Otherwise, like, Alibaba will overtake, which will be a disaster as well. Yeah.
Okay. So Owen says, when do you think the next Canton Fair we can attend will be? I think there's still slightly. It's on a knife's edge, but unless there's a big reoccurrence, even though because there seems to be reports coming out of China, there is some more COVID-19 cases, like a rebound effect, but it looks like they're trying to go ahead for October. Would you agree? For the 17th, I think it is.
Yeah, but the other thing is that, like, even if China gets its stuff together, the Canton Fair attracts buyers all over the world. So that, like, if we recovered in Europe and they've recovered in America, but let's say South America is particularly bad or Africa is particularly bad, well, then people might not want to go because people from parts of the world which have disease are coming. So that's going to be like, it's kind of like the whole world needs to get better before this fair can go ahead, or the Canton Fair or the Chinese government might have a very strict screening process of when you come into China, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks before you're allowed into the mainland, and then therefore you have to come to the Canton Fair 2 weeks before, which I don't know if people will be prepared to do. So I think only time will tell, because they only cancelled or postponed the Canton Fair maybe like about a month before it was scheduled to go ahead. So it'll probably be like, September before we find that out.
Yeah. Which is leaving little time really for planning, but there you go. What do you think will happen? Did you think they're going to take any of this online experience and take it offline? Do you think there's going to be anything they've learned there?
You mean like from this fair, like how they're going to?
Yeah, so they've done this online fair, which by everyone's, small sample set, but everyone's saying it's been pretty poor. What do you think they would take from that to do with their... I'll tell you what we haven't spoken about as part of this. Canton Fair is large, as we know, is multiple, they call them soccer stadiums, football pitches, NFL pitches, whatever you want to say, right? Huge, 20, 30, I can't remember the statistics there. But what about social distancing? That can be achieved, but it just needs to control the numbers coming in, right? Because it's a very open space when you go there. Agreed?
Yeah, that'll be a massive challenge, actually.
Yeah, it would be a challenge, but I'm saying it's massive. If you had smaller amount of numbers and you marked out all the floors, like it would be if you're going to the supermarket, if you think about how the Canton Fair is laid out, when you go for the different sections A, B, C, and D, right? And then the walkways through and everything else. If there's crowd control, I definitely think they could find a way of definitely doing it COVID safe up to a point if people are willing to travel. It just means less numbers going in through the door.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tricky. Because you got these like massive air conditioning units going through the top of the halls as well, which spreads through all the other halls as well. So it's just like, I don't know. It's a bit messy.
Yeah. I highly doubt that there's going to be a Canton Fair this year. We're talking about what, like 4 months away? there's already second outbreaks throughout the world. I mean, Israel's probably going into a second outbreak now. China's going into second outbreaks. Until there's a vaccination, I personally don't really think, especially when this is not discriminating against China or anything, but because this also came out of China, I don't really think that we're going to have people rushing to fly to China right now on a level where it will make sense that we're going to have a Canton Fair in October. Do you get what I mean? Like, I don't think that there'll be enough people who would be willing to go right now in general. People, we were looking at just flying to Greece soon. And then again, Greece is in another outbreak. We can't fly to Greece. And Greece is not China. China's huge.
But do you know what makes me think that that's slightly different? The attitude is because they took so long to cancel the Canton Fair, because no one knew, did they? We all knew it was off, but it wasn't officially announced, which led me to believe they left it right to the last minute, and they'll not happy, but they'll do the same again, because this is it's the death knell for the business, isn't it? Like, Canton Fair is a staple, like you said. It rely on the export out of China to the rest of the world. 2 of those in a year could be devastating for business, can't it? It can have a prolonged effect. So I think
Absolutely.
They'll still be bullish to try and make it happen, and it's only down to safety and the government stepping in to saying you're not going ahead because there's so much money at stake.
For sure.
Tiff's joined. Good morning, my favourite morning show. I'm glad you're here for breakfast drive time there, Tiff. Whereabouts are you? Anne says, can we quarantine in Hong Kong? Won't want to do that.
Idea.
But Howard Ty was in Hong Kong. He was on the show in quarantine. He'd done 14 days in a TARDIS. It's like Doctor Who's box. It was tiny with him and his partner. It was like a prison cell because he was forced into quarantine there. It wasn't choice. And then they had to order external food. So I don't think that would be too much fun in terms of quarantine unless you got to choose the location. Nadine says, agree with Kian. Live streams have been great to get a feel for the supplier and see all the latest goodies. All right. What other things you want to cover on this? We want to talk about sourcing from the future of sourcing in China. Kian, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm just thinking for myself, like what I'm going to do, because like I've got loads of products that I'm planning on developing, and it's like I can develop it from here, like from the office, and then sketch it and send samples back and forth. But as a result of COVID, like, the air freight costs have gone through the roof. So sending samples is a lot more costly than it used to be. And then with not actually being able to get out to China, it makes it a lot harder to work directly with manufacturers. And the Canton Fair being a disaster, it's like it's just hard. Like, and it's like, well, when's it going to get better? Because like for all these products, brands tend to like manufacture and develop products like seasonally, SS21, 22, autumn, winter. And it's like, how is that development going ahead when everything's been so hindered? And then also like the effects that has on like retailers as well. So for anyone who's supplying retailers, like they've not been able to open, so they've been holding on to a lot of stock, and then they're not necessarily purchasing the stock that they've ordered, and they're not developing anything new. So depending on certain categories of product, like I know how that's going to shape the landscape of how we purchase and where we purchase products from over the next like 6, 9, 12 months. It just depends on how fast China can open up and how fast we can get to traveling again. So it's all kind of up in the air, which you could sort of say it's an opportunity, or it's a major weakness and threat. So maybe, and then, but here's the, like, do you source from other countries? And well, other countries have also the problems. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think that though these retailers though, Ken, I know that you supply some of them, but a lot of these retailers are turning more on to online. I mean, there was that article, I can't remember which one, that showed that COVID has like boosted e-commerce by like 3 or 4 years, and a lot of retailers are going online now. And it's like when the outbreak, like I remember the first coronavirus video I made for my YouTube channel, and I was like, no, you shouldn't be trying to now source outside of China, because if the outbreak is going to get out of China, it's going to be worldwide. And then that happened. So people are like, well, then should we go outside of China? There's a second outbreak there, but there's probably going to be a second outbreak everywhere at some stage. So like same thing with India. India is like, they're building up to be like the second best to China type of thing. And I just don't think that, honestly still don't think that even now that it necessarily, we've had this conversation, by the way, I think it was the first call we did, us three together here, where we all agreed that it's not necessarily, it has to make sense for the product, because we need to remember that no matter what, not every country is going to be able to make the same type. Like, I don't see a second best to or any other country that can make toys the way China can, as quick as possible. Like, there's not every single country is going to make sense. And I just don't think right now people should be steering away from China. I just think that the people that aren't used to doing things as much online need to get used to online. Like Kian, you prefer to be physically in China, and I know that you preach that it's important to be in China, and I believe in it, and I think that you're right, even though I've never yet been in China. But I just think that people need to get more used to also online right now, because I don't know, I may just think differently, but I don't really see people starting to go all over the world unless they absolutely have to in the next I don't know, a few months at least.
So Kian was bringing up is that obviously air has gone up by a lot, but then is that a small price to pay as the cost of doing business? When you say that someone's sending you a sample and it's doubled, it's what, a few $100s max? So if
you consolidate, so it's not that.
Yeah,
it hasn't gone up that much if you consolidate. I consolidate my samples. I consolidated a few samples like 2 weeks ago. And it wasn't the end of the world. It was like not the cheapest, and it wasn't the most expensive. I know that we're not talking about the same type of samples. Some of these samples could be really big.
Because they're larger and stuff, But
they're larger.
If you oversize goods, it's different. Yeah.
Everything's product dependent, I think. But I think that though, like, air has gone up everywhere in the world. It's a lot more right now from China, but it's gone up everywhere in the world. So I just don't think everyone needs to start running necessarily to sourcing outside of China. Depends on the product.
I think one thing will slow down is for like the 8-figure sellers, the super big sellers that spend a lot of time in China, because that's part of the business, or they have a team based in China. There is going to be some impact there if it limits them to go there and finish off current products in development, and their role is to develop products in the same role as Kian. That's going to be a big difference. But I think 6- and 7-figure sellers who don't go to China so much, if it's only going to be the cost of the increase in samples, even if they're consolidated, it's the cost of doing business. So there's not too much disruption there, but I think it does impact people that their business is reliant upon them being inside the factory and finalizing stuff. That's where the impact comes from.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, so you can shift your business model to ship more by place orders further planned in advance and ship by sea rather than by air. For your actual production of your goods. But in terms of the samples, like, remember, like, when you're developing a product, sometimes you're developing it with like 3 or 4 different manufacturers. And if you have to do samples back and forth with multiple suppliers, yes, you can bundle it at source as well if you have an office there, or if you have a close, but let's say it's like costing $100 to send by air for the sample, and you have to do that 3 or 4 times with several different suppliers. You could be talking a large amount just to sort of get your sample confirmed. And get your sample confirmed, sometimes you don't even place the order. So the cost of developing a product could be a lot higher than what it was before. So that might deter a lot of new products being developed in certain categories where it's big. But if it's, if we're talking about a leather wallet, it's minuscule, the air freight costs. So, I mean, it's just something to be mindful of. And if you have a presence out there, then you have a much bigger advantage, I would say, in terms of bringing new products out.
Yes. Well, I don't know if this show is going to be very long today. There's not a huge amount to cover. I think we've covered quite a lot. But what would you say to people right of now to deal with, like, if they are considering to go to China for Canton? Realistically, we're looking at April next year, or still keep the door open for an October?
I'm hopeful for the end of the year, because remember, the Canton Fair was supposed to start middle of April, but then they pushed the online fair to the middle of June. So while we say middle of October for the next one, they might push it to December or January before Chinese New Year.
See what I mean? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So it could be. I think it's just going to be postponed to the earliest that they can actually just open up, and they might limit flights from other countries where the virus is more prominent. And they might have mandatory testing. I mean, personally, if I go, I'm wearing a mask and I'll be happy with that. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to go back out as fast as possible. So if it's there, I'll be there. So come with me.
Yeah, Sharon, you have no real desire to go out there anyway. It doesn't really affect your business from that perspective, does it? Because
we were supposed to go this year to the Canton Fair. We did want to fly out this year, but it's not the number one. I can continue business as usual for now without it. Let's put it that way. I'm not that eager in flying in general right now. You know, we've got family that are like in high risk, and I'm not looking to get anyone sick. So I'm not saying that we're not walking around and stuff as usual. I just don't know if I want to be stuck on a plane right now with people.
You don't want that level of exposure and long flight.
I just don't. I also don't really see it realistically happening this year, if I'm really honest. Like, I just think, like, also, Kian, if you think about it, you fly to China for 2 weeks, you in quarantine for 2 weeks, and then you're there for however long you're there, and then you fly back to your country.
Sorry,
There's a Formula One track outside of Danny's house.
I was like, what the hell is that? And
I've got tracked in. Sorry.
And then you're in quarantine again. That's a full month of being in quarantine. That's a long time.
I know. I normally go to China for like more than a month anyway, though, so I can put up with that.
I think you came specifically, but like my brother-in-law, my husband's brother-in-law. So yeah, anyway, my husband's brother, his sister's husband. Okay, he does a lot of sourcing from China. He flies to China usually like once every 2 months, and he could just go for like a week and come back. We had this conversation the other day. It's like, I'm not going to China in the next year. It's not going to happen. You know, and this is someone where that's his entire business is importing into Israel from China. So I don't know. I'm really, you know, I'd be really interested to hear, Danny, what they're doing right now is Brandon Young. I'd really be interested to see how he's operating right now with the amount of products that he brings out and his Chinese team in China.
Well, he's got his wife's Chinese. By his own mission, he said this on the show as well, and he's got a team on the ground out there. And he mentioned again on the show that he has a team that they sit down and they work out, what have you brought to the table, what are we sourcing. He does everything at scale anyways. He does like 8 figures.
Because he was the first person I thought about when you said the big 8-figure sellers. I'm pretty sure that the big 8-figure sellers have a Chinese team physically in China.
Oh, most of them.
So if they do, I don't think that them specifically flying out to China right now is going to affect them dramatically. The people who are at that amount of scale have a team there, and their team can still perform, I think, right? I'm not in China. I'm going with my logic. Their team can still perform the way that, like, let's say at least at 80% capacity. So I just think that for people like Kian, where everything's done mostly face-to-face and stuff, it sucks right now. But I think that it's just about pivoting and learning how to deal with it online. Right?
Well, yes and no, because I've got an office in China and staff in China as well. But essentially, they're like quality control. They're managing samples, but like I'm essentially the decision maker. So whether the decision maker is in China or just the team is in China, it's like a different scenario. If you know what I mean.
It's that last 5-10%, the bit that no one else can do. Only the boss can do. The person that runs the business.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time to also understand in situations like this that if that last 5% is dependent on you, then you really need to also have that person there, which may be difficult because like I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth because I won't give anyone anything because I'm such a control freak, which I'm still working on. But you know, I don't know. I just find it like for example, find these types of conversations difficult because I feel like if I was Kian right now, I'd be going crazy, feeling out of control. Because you know, and that's when I feel out of control, I just find a solution. And I think the solution right now is just going online. Danny's put himself on mute. I wonder if there's more Formula One stuff.
There's still going on in the background, so I'm muting in now. I'm lucky because I only have one product that comes from China now, so it doesn't affect me. But that was a change that happened over the last couple of years, nothing to do with COVID. Yeah, that was more of a choice. But yeah, that's why it doesn't have that level of impact on me. But if I was still manufacturing everything or most of my products in China, that's a different story. I'd still want to be able to go and visit the factories and stuff. So that would have a level of impact, but I'm not an 8-figure seller, so it wouldn't affect me like it would affect a Brandon or and like an Ash Thompson and stuff. We're doing tremendous scale, you know.
the thing is, you're still capable of developing products like from here anyway. It's just you just use WeChat a lot more, use like photos and videos a lot more. You maybe send a few more samples. Like it's still definitely possible because the design inspiration still has to come from you. It's just easier doing it in a factory, but it's still possible. So it's absolutely fine.
Cool.
It's all figure outable.
Yeah, it's all
Exactly.
figure outable. If that's
All
a
figure
word.
outable.
Right. Any passing thoughts? Any final thoughts before we go?
This is the shortest show we've ever done.
I know we don't need to draw it out. People want concise, good information, and rather than us waffling for
No, I'm all
an
for
hour.
it.
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything. Unless you got something, Kian.
Yeah, I've got something to say, right? So there's like Canton Fair, there's Alibaba, then there's another website called madeinchina.com. And as it happens, I was just on their website and they've got an online fair as well, starting I think in 4 days or something. And they're in partnership with the Canton Fair, which I thought was really strange. The Canton Fair web logo was on their website, and they say they've got a fair. So I'm going to be keeping up to date with that. But like, I've kind of lost hope in virtual fairs, and I don't know the quality of suppliers that are on Made in China. I've never really been on that website before, so that's just something that I saw recently. But if it is interesting, we can talk about it next week, and I'll also post about it in my group as well.
Yep, sounds good. There's also the Sorcery Summit as well. It changed its name. It was called the White Label Online Summit. That's got a lot of people. Friend Will would put that together. I'm not speaking on it, but I think you are, Kian, aren't you? And Sharon?
Yeah,
you're
both. Hey, Kian, we can finally see you really well.
Yeah.
You're not blurry anymore.
So that, I think that's because that got moved prior, didn't it? They went to launch and then moved it. Do you have the new dates to give out to people?
I think it's 29, 28. It's the end of this month.
Yes.
28, 29, 30, and 1st, or something like that, or 29, 30, 31, 1st, whatever.
And I think it's sorcerysummit.com, isn't it?
Yeah, 29th to 1st.
Summit.com. If you still go to whitelabelsummit.com, it'll still take you there. Wait, I want to show off mine too. Kian and I got turned into let's show everyone how we're superstars. Anyone who can't see us because they're listening to us, not superstars, what do you call it? Kian and I got turned into superheroes.
Superheroes, yeah.
Otherwise, we got
so it's in
I can't find
6
mine.
days. Yeah, so 6 days time from now is the countdown. So go to sorcerysummit.com. Speakers are Ezra Firestone, Shane Oglow, to give you some names. Yana's on there. Corin Wood-Mass is also on there. Norm Ferrer, Kevin King, Jim Cochran, Athena Severi, Michelle Barnum-Smith, Kirsty Verity, Rich Goldstein, Chris McKay, Leah McHugh, Lazar Zeppelin, and then we've got Yev Merasenko is there as well. Yael Kabili, regular on this show. Isabella Hamilton, one of the lead speakers from Branded by Women. Zach Franklin as well. David Nukchili, I think is the right pronunciation. There's this Scottish fella called Kian Golzari. There's also Nation Hirsch. Amy Weiss, again, she was on Branded by Women. Christina Mertens, Lee Rand Hirschkorn, regular on the show as well. Troy Johnston, Anna Davison, again, speaker Branded by Women. Cassandra Craven from Helium 10. This young lady called Sharon Evan, I think her name is. Jean Kennemer is speaking. Who else is there? A lot of people. Karen Thomas, again, Branded by Women. Melissa Simonson from Impari. Then you've got French Jordan, who's based in Germany. And I think that's about it. But that's not a bad lineup for a completely free event. I'll drop a link, and that starts in 6 days time. I spoke to Will, really good guy. I've been very supportive of him. He's had to go for a name change and stuff, but definitely check it out. He's a really good guy. So yeah, be good if people can obviously support him. Tiffany said the poster for this event is awesome. They did do great jobs, didn't they? Because
they did.
Each individual speaker, everyone is a superhero, but each speaker got pushed to the front. You know, everyone got nice 6-packs or whatever, or like superhero bodies as well, didn't they? And
Kian, let's show ourselves again. Kian, let's show them again. Look at Kian. You have to look at Kian. You have to see Kian again. Look
I was hoping for a bigger 6-pack.
Look at that.
Look at that.
I'm like Wonder Woman, and Kian's like, Kian, what do you like there?
So you know what? I did say to him, I said, that's a brilliant idea. He said, because you know what, when you put on events, it's not always easy to get the speakers to share their profiles, to go, yeah, but they're busy, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
How do you tap into that? Turn them all into superhero, give them six packs, great bodies.
100%.
I said that was a genius stroke. You tapped into their egos there, because why wouldn't everyone be presented in such a lovely way? So you see them everywhere. So I thought that was a really good idea. So I reckon you're going to get an influx now of everyone ripping that idea off, like the cartoon thing. And so a lot of these summits, will, you know, like Private Label do, people do something and then everyone copies that same kind of format. So you might get
It's a shame. But I was looking forward to showing my real six pack, but now with the superhero one, I just got to show the superhero one. So, but maybe for the next one, I'll show the real one.
Yeah. I'm glad you're keeping it real. All right, guys, we're going to sign out now. What is the best way of reaching the pair of you?
For me, Sourcing with Kian on Facebook and Sourcing with Kian on YouTube. Committed to dropping one new video a week on YouTube, so definitely check it out if you haven't already, and I'll see you there. Cool.
And Sharon?
I am Sharon Evan on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and you can join my Facebook group, Amazon FBA Alphas, or Kian Sourcing with Kian. And yeah, that's us.
Cool. And you can find me here 4 p.m. BST each day if you want to check out show notes, previous shows. As I said, we're nearly up to show 500. I need to plan something special for next week.
What day is it? 500?
I'm not sure. I think it's Thursday or Friday. I need to double check with the gap in the episodes, but roughly it'll be towards the end of next week. So you won't be on, Sharon, I'm afraid.
You should really have, how many people could you have on StreamYard? A maximum of 6.
6.
So you should have everyone on and have a huge party for it.
Well, this is it. The problem, you don't want to leave people out, you know, because there's a lot of people who have contributed on a weekly or monthly basis to the show since 2017. So, yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. I might have to do a week-long party to fit everyone in because a lot of people are giving good contribution. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'll see you guys later tomorrow, 4 p.m. I will be back here till Thursday as well. Stay home, stay safe, take care of your family. Much love. Bye.
Adios.